Hello, everyone. Welcome into episode 146 of the Stomp the Bus Show. I am your host, Mark Harris, and Jeff Sims take a bow. The Sun Devils improved to 6-3 overall and get up to 4-2 in the Big 12, which puts them at sixth place entering play on Saturday. They technically have a chance to still make the Big 12 championship game if there's drama surrounding them, but more importantly, this win over Iowa State was a big buffer against any sort of complacency, any sort of feeling from the team that the season was over, that the season was irrelevant. And now you're at a bye week and you have everything to play for still. And even if let's just say Texas Tech wins tomorrow, BYU loses, and then BYU wins out the rest of the way. They're both 11-1. You get boxed out of the championship game. Okay, you still have a chance to have a 9-3 regular season in which you will most likely be ranked at the end of the year. And then if you go 9-3, you can win a bowl game and get to 10-3. And that would be a really good year. If you had told me that before the year, I wouldn't be overjoyed, but I wouldn't be super disappointed either. And so you can keep that goal still in mind, and again, you're doing it with a backup quarterback, right? Like Jeff Sims, I think that Dillingham used him in the perfect way on Saturday. You can't run him. You can't run him 29 times every single game. That's not sustainable. But you can do it for one game when you're playing a injured and beaten down Iowa State defense that's also not great at stopping the run anyway, right? And you have a bye week after. So that was the perfect game plan at that time, and it worked out. I'll dive into some of the specifics of that game that gets ASU up to 6-3. Before I continue, please like and subscribe. Please rate and review. And let's get rolling. It's been a good week for ASU. Entering last week's game, there were questions. It's going to be Jeff Sims the rest of the way. What does that look like? Let's hope we can just get to a bowl game. All that. And now you look ahead. Obviously, this week is the bye. And you look at these next two games, and ASU will be clearly favored in both of these next two games against West Virginia and Colorado. Will that lead to the result that we like? Will it lead to wins? Who knows? But you are entering with the more talented team in both of those games. And so there's a real chance for you to get to 8-3. And if you get to 8-3 and you're hosting U of A, that's a good spot to be in. And, this U of A team, they're capable of beating ASU. It's not last year's U of A team, obviously. They already have 5 wins. I kind of hope that they aren't fighting for that 6th win against ASU. I don't see it looking that way. I believe U of A is at 5-3. So if they're at 5-3, it would take a complete collapse from them in the month of November to really fall off. Let's look at U of A's schedule here. Yeah, okay. So U of A, they host Kansas on Saturday, tomorrow afternoon. I'm recording this on the night of Friday the 7th. And then they're at Cincinnati. They have a 10 a.m. start at Cincinnati on the 15th. That's not a good spot for them. And then they host Baylor the second to last regular season weekend of the year. And then, of course, we play them on either November 28th or November 29th at 7 p.m. on Fox. So anyway, my point with U of A is they're going to be a good team that we have to deal with, and they're probably going to come in. They will almost certainly come in with 6 wins already, and there's a good chance they'll come in with 7 wins. They will be favored to beat Kansas and Baylor in Tucson, and then they'll be expected to lose at Cincinnati. But like my point being with all this is like you have a pretty I don't want to get like too out over my skis. I'm like, oh, they're gonna win all 3 games, like all that. Like I don't believe that, but like you will be favored in every single game, and the next 2 games you will be heavy favorites. So that's great to be if you're Arizona State. We saw West Virginia beat Houston this past week, and that does, that definitely makes the Mountaineers a bit more of a threat than I anticipated. I think everyone anticipated. What I will also say is, excuse me, ASU now has this Houston game and their game against Colorado to scout West Virginia and make sure that they understand the offense, they understand what Scotty Fox can do at quarterback, and it's still a home game for ASU, and ASU will be very motivated to win at home, not just to win, but to also get the bad taste out of their mouth from losing against Houston the last time they were at Mountain America Stadium. So they'll be in a advantageous position. You'll have time to heal up, more time to get things practice with the offense with Jeff SIMS. Jordan Tyson will not be back for that game. He'll be back for Colorado, but I believe Prince Dorba and Tate Romney will be back for the game against West Virginia. Let me check that up right now. Okay. Yeah. So Chris Cartman reports earlier this week, Prince Dorba and Tate Romney are likely to be back for West Virginia. Jordan Tyson will be back by the Colorado game, which that's really interesting because we all forget that Jordan Tyson originally went to Colorado. He left after Coach Prime came to Boulder. And I'm sure Jordan Tyson, like I said on one of these previous shows, like, it's probably like Jordan Tyson wouldn't be hurt if he just like sat out the rest of the season. He would still probably be the first wide receiver off the board. And I don't think any ASU fan would really blame him for kind of taking care of himself, but he wants to return. This ASU team still has a chance at winning the Big 12. They on paper have a chance. Again, I don't think it'll play out that way, but we're going to be sitting here in mid-November with a legitimate chance to win the league. And so I don't think you can be upset that like things haven't gone perfectly for ASU and there's been injuries and you've had some dumb losses in there. You got embarrassed in one game. Like I get it, but you're giving yourself a chance at the end of the year. And, there was an argument for ASU to be ranked at 6-3 in this, the most recent college football playoff rankings that came out. And I think their win over Texas Tech is going to age very, very well. I think it's going to be the only regular season loss that Tech endures this year. I think the Red Raiders win tomorrow in Lubbock. And so, this is a good spot to be in. The defense has continued to just be solid, right? They've had the defense has had one game this year where you can say, oh, they were bad. And that was the Utah game when everything and everyone was bad. They've had some games where they haven't been, particularly exciting or extra effective, right? Like the Houston game, you give up 24 points. The Mississippi State game, obviously, like they have that. They get jumped on in the first half. They adjust and they hold Mississippi State down for most of the rest of the game, and then they get torched on a late second play. And so, sure, but ultimately they only allowed 24 points. They haven't given up 24 points in any game except one, that being against Utah. Your defense is a huge reason you beat Texas Tech. They limited TCU to only 24 points, held Baylor to 24. So while they haven't been they have yet to really have some completely dominant performance, maybe you could say Texas State. I mean, they had a really good game against Iowa State. They had some rough moments, I would say. But ultimately you get a pick when you need it. You stop them on that final drive. Iowa State, and particularly Rocco Becht. Rocco Becht did not have a good game. But you know what? You go on the road and you win and you hold a team to 19 points at home against against a quarterback you played in the Big 12 championship game last year. And so that was a huge win. But we got to, I've talked about, the big picture, like, oh, your season's still alive and all this, but like, man, we really have to give credit to Jeff Sims. Like, Jeff Sims over his college career had taken so much shit. Okay. Especially when he went to Nebraska and had some pretty high profile games that didn't go well for him. But in this game, you could really see why he was a high profile recruit coming out of high school. And you saw the athletic tools, man. Like, not many guys are capable of popping an 88-yard touchdown run and just pulling away from guys. And then it wasn't just that. It was the consistent up the middle, gaining like 5 yards a clip, more than that on that first run they had in the first half. Like, he gained like 15 yards right away, made a guy miss. And he did enough in the passing game. Like, look, his final total is 13 for 24, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. Okay. And that he probably should have had another touchdown that was taken off the board by a phantom false start by Mateer. That was complete BS. And the pick, it wasn't a good decision by him on the throw that he made. I'm not going to defend him on that aspect of it. But what I will defend him on is they should have never, I'm not saying, so ASU gets the ball. Let me share the screen here. Okay. So this is the play chart. Obviously you see here it's 3-3 first quarter. Then we get into the second quarter. ASU is up 17-16 because Sims had just fumbled it. 11-yard pass. Sims at way in ASU's territory. So Iowa State just went 2 plays, 24 yards for a touchdown. ASU gets lucky. They mixed an extra point that actually kind of played a role in how this game went, and a potential decision that wasn't made by Dillingham, which I was upset about, but that's a different story. So anyway, ASU, after Iowa State scores a touchdown, ASU gets the ball back. With 1:01 left in the half, Rayleigh Brown rushes for 10 yards up the middle, then a -2-yard run for Brown, 0-yard runs. Okay, so it's Iowa State just calls a timeout. It's 3rd and 12. 3rd and 12 at ASU's own 33-yard line. And they call a pass play, which I'm not against them calling a pass play. What I was against was throwing an intermediate route. I think what the team should have done there is instead of trying, because it gets intercepted at so it's thrown, like 20 yards downfield, intercepted by Neal at Iowa State 45. And it gets returned for 18 yards to the ASU 37. And from there, Beck threw an incomplete pass, and then they were forced to kick a 55-yard field goal that did not go in. So it didn't end up mattering. That is important to note. But I think if you're going to throw an intermediate, you might as well just huck it deep, and maybe you get a penalty, maybe it gets caught, or if it does get picked off, the guy would have to return it a super long way, and like it probably wouldn't result in them returning it for a touchdown or way deep into obvious field goal range. So I think in that type of position with Sims, I would rather just prefer them to hurl it deep. And it's probably, if it does get picked off, it can act as just like one of those arm punts, and it doesn't actually hurt you that badly. So that's just one little game management thing I didn't love. We get into the third quarter. Iowa State has a decent drive here, but a huge sack by Elijah O'Neal when Iowa State is at ASU's 34-yard. This is a very underrated play in this game. O'Neal gets backed 6-yard loss pushes them back to the 40, which they already missed a 55-yard field goal, so they're not going to attempt a 57-yard field goal. And it's, it eliminates a scoring opportunity for Iowa State because they were at ASU's 34-yard line. If they gain yards, then they certainly kick it. And even if it's an incomplete, they probably still attempt one. So then ASU goes 3 and out. No problem. This was a great play series as well for the defense. Becht passes it to Alexander for 2 yards, or for negative 2 yards. I'm sorry. Incompletion, and then they punt again, and then this is when ASU really kind of takes control of the game. 3 yards, 3-yard pass to Mateer, and then a freaking 88-yard touchdown run, QB draw up the middle, makes one guy miss, and then it's just gone. And then from there, it's punts. Iowa State gains a lot on one drive, 76 yards, but they have to settle for a field goal. Punts, and then this is what really upset me in this game. So we're in the fourth quarter. Okay. ASU gets the ball at 11:15. SIMS rushes right for 15 yards to Iowa State 40, minus 3-yard rush for Ray Luke Brown, 6-yard run, 4-yard run. So we're deep in Iowa State territory. Okay. It's 3rd and 7 at their 22. They gain. You're at the 18-yard line. You could have kicked a, makeable field goal. Instead, Dillingham goes for it. To their credit, they did have the perfect play call drawn up. It was a little pot pass to Rayleigh Brown over the middle, and he was wide open. So they had it perfectly drawn up on the board, and that part of it worked out. It gets tipped, falls down, turnover on downs. Luckily, Iowa State throws a pick right away, but then SIMS fumbles it. ASU's defense does a great job. Iowa State 27 immediately gets sacked by Watley for a loss of 10. They have to, on second down, but then they have to punt. Then ASU punts. Iowa State has, 2 minutes, a minute 33 to go, and they, at their own 36, they get to all the way to the ASU 25-yard line. And Becht, they have the play drawn out pretty well. They have a receiver out in the short flat. Sowell catches it for 5 yards, but the way that Becht threw it, he had to dive down to the ground, and you could clearly see his butt was a whole yard short of the line to gain, and so that clinched it for ASU. The reason I go through this is just I understand the MO with Kenny and being aggressive and always trying to get the touchdown instead of the field goal. And for the most part, I understand. And it didn't kill them in this game, right? ASU still won. But I just think you have to kick it there because then you're up 8. And that means that I understand that anyone was watching this game. It was like, wow, it really doesn't seem likely that Iowa State's going to score a touchdown. They ended up being right. Okay. They had one long touchdown drive that entire game, and that was it. With that said, it only takes one, misplay, broken tackle, some guy falling down in the secondary, penalties, whatever it may be, a turnover deep in your territory, all these sorts of things. And all of a sudden, Iowa State is in good shape to score. And if that type of thing were to happen, you'd much rather be up 8 than up 5, And so I get that, getting that would have been the dagger. And I understand where he's coming from. I just think in this game, you really had to take the points there because if you're Iowa State, you have to score a touchdown and then you have to get the 2-point conversion too. You can't, it's not both. So you're putting them in a position where they have to get the 2-point conversion. And even if they do both of those things, then they're tied. And you would still have an opportunity to go down and, maybe kick a field goal or score a touchdown and whatever. But I just, in that specific moment in that game, I didn't like kicking it there, not kicking it there, but it works out. ASU gets the road win, and I give credit to, I believe it was Daniel Selesky on Ralph Amston's Twitter Spaces after the game. He points out that like this game at Iowa State, the rain, the weather, just the ugly nature of the game, it's very similar to games at Washington State, at Oregon State, and ASU doesn't always win. Past ASU teams do not always win those type of games, particularly with a backup quarterback. So in all, like a great win by ASU. It wasn't the prettiest game, and there were some annoying parts about it. That late fumble by SIMS sucks, and like I will say this, like Jeff Sims was incredible. He totally deserves all the praise he's getting from this game, getting his single jersey retired for the ASU single game quarterback run rushing yard record, 228 yards. Like that's going to hold up for a bit. 228, like that's not an easy thing to, I think he broke it by like almost 100 yards. So that's not an easy one to surpass. So like I totally agree with all the praise he's getting with that. And I think that this team can accomplish its goals with him at quarterback. With that said, like we have to understand he's going to turn the ball over a little bit, like, and hopefully they don't have to deal with the weather that they did in Ames, although there's potential for it when they play at Colorado. We'll see how that weather shakes out in later this month. But I think that that's just something we have to be cognizant of with Sims, especially if he's going to be running a lot. Like he'll fumble it every once in a while. And so hopefully there's some good fumble luck. Hopefully it's not at extremely critical parts of the game. All of these types of things. But overall, I mean, you have to be happy with how this game played out for ASU. I mean, the game before, the Houston game was awful. And I know that there's injuries and they didn't completely give up. And I mean, heck, Jeff Sims had a chance to lead a game-time touchdown drive in that game. Like Houston, like if you're a Houston fan, that game ended in a very stressful way. But ultimately, it's still a loss for ASU. And this was a great way to rebound. Because, like I said, heading into the Texas Tech game was, hey, you know what? Like, if you lose to Texas Tech and then you beat Houston, you're still somewhat alive in the race. And of course, those results get flip-flopped in part to Levitt's injury and in part to just bad play, missed field goals, a terrible replay review on that fumble from Levitt. And so those things go against you, you lose, and you're just able to bounce back, man. And I give credit to Kenny. I give credit, like I said, to the defense for never – this entire year, aside from one game, they have not let teams really like stack huge leads. They've never suffered the dagger getting put into them. They've never allowed that to happen. And in some games, like in the TCU game, they were down. ASU was able to come back, and because ASU's defense didn't give up, 24 points in the first half, it was 17. ASU was able to win. The Mississippi State game, they had a chance because the defense played really well. And that was a great thing to see. And other games they've won because their defense has played well. So you have to give credit to them. You have to give credit to Jeff Sims. I think the secondary wide receivers really balled out in this game. Malik McClain with the second straight really good game. I know it says 2 catches for 49 yards. Like, he played really well. I thought Jalen Moss played really well. Jalen Moss almost had 2 touchdowns in this game. One was overthrown by Sims, and another he just there was a penalty that wiped it out. And then Mateer was just incredibly consistent. He's having himself a very underrated year, especially if you look at the game logs with Mateer. So I guess he didn't play at Utah. It doesn't seem like it. He only has 7 games, so that means he missed. Which game did he miss? Oh, he missed. Oh, he didn't have a. He played in Mississippi State, but he didn't have a catch. and then he didn't record a catch at Utah either. But you look at the games where he does produce, 6 for 60, Texas State, 6 for 55, Baylor, 4 for 25, TCU, 4 for 66, Texas Tech, 4 for 55, Houston, 6 for 68, Iowa State. Just very consistent. And when you add in his blocking, he has been one of the real underrated players in this game. He already has 3 touchdowns. We'll probably end the year with 520 yards and 5 touchdowns. That's a really good season for a tight end. And clearly him and SIMS have some kind of connection. He's caught 2 touchdown passes from SIMS. Rayleigh Brown generally played well. Keith Abney, great game. Watley, his best game as a Sun Devil, I would say. 2 really big plays late. And so, it's nice to just enter the bye with a win. You get to just sit back, watch the Texas Tech BYU game tomorrow, which is going to be awesome. Unless you have YouTube TV like me and you have to go to a sports bar because stupid corporate interests can't get their shit together and just come to a solution, but that's a different topic. So yeah, I do want to touch on some other news items. Our coach, some news has come out about our coach, and it's good news if you're a Sun Devil fan. So as you can see on my Twitter right here, there's ASU's just kind of been involved in more big-time graphics right now, and that's really good to see. I'm not, as you know, with this show, I don't dive into high school recruiting that much. While I understand the importance of it, I just don't dive into it that much. But anyway, you know what? I should have just went to the Stomp the Bus account. Okay, well, I should have been more prepared. Anyway, AP Player of the Week for Jeff Sims. How great is that? When someone looks back this year at all the AP Players of the Week, one of them will be Jeff Sims because he just beat the crap out of Iowa State. I love that. I love that, man. And love that, man. And again, just for Jeff Sims, just with all the crap he's taken as a quarterback, some of it earned. I'm not sitting here. It's not all, it's not like people are completely unfair with it, but overall, just to have that game and for a game that clinched bowl eligibility on the road against a team, a 5-4 now Iowa State team that will likely go to a bowl game. Not a great team, but a team that you have to show up and play well to beat, and in bad weather, 2 time zones away. It was an impressive game, and you love that for Jeff Sims. So he'll always be a big part of the Sun Devil football community because of just how well he's played this year and his contribution. So I'm really happy for him. All right. It was reported on Thursday from Sun Devil sources, Chris Cartman, best ASU reporter in the game right now. You have to follow him if you're an ASU fan. And this is the tweet that he sends out. Sources, Kenny Dillingham walked into position meetings last week ahead of a win over Iowa State to tell his players that he would continue to lead ASU into next season. 3 people apprised of his comments told Sun Devil source more info. It goes into there's a player that I'll share the story here. There's a player here. This is the player's parents. So, quote, he just walked in, said he wasn't going anywhere next year and that it's going to be business as usual. Quote, a parent of one ASU defensive player said of the message relayed to them. Then he left. He also did that with other positions on the team because those players heard the same thing and they talked about it after. This is before Cartman writes, despite rumors labeling Dillingham as a candidate for multiple Power 4 jobs, including Florida and Auburn, Dillingham unexpectedly entered several position rooms last week to tell players he would continue to lead the Sun Devils next season. You have to be under a rock if you have not seen any coaching rumors about Dillingham potentially being a candidate at other schools. I have been someone who has been like, hey, I don't think Dillingham's going to leave, but you should consider it as a possibility if you're an ASU fan. And you have to at least have your radar up and have some level of concern. this kind of quells it all for me, because if he is walking into multiple position rooms with 4 games left to go in the season, and he's saying, hey, I'm going to be here next year, there's nothing to worry about. Like, I'm sure you've seen some of the speculation out there, like, to just kind of nip that in the bud. And then he also went on local radio today. He didn't specifically say, like, oh, I'm definitely going to be back, but the tone of his comments is like, hey, like, I'm here at ASU, and like, this is where I want to be. And again, like, but to me, what's more important is Cartman's report saying that Dillingham like told players on the team, like, I'm not going anywhere. So I think we can kind of just relax with the coaching rumors about Dillingham. He did say next season, who knows? Maybe we'll be going through this kind of stuff down the road. I would recommend people listen to the PHNX Sun Devil show today with Eric Ruby and Ralph Amston. Ralph does a really good job kind of conveying that, like, yes, Dillingham isn't saying the exact, like, I'm definitely going to be here, but what he is saying in some of these somewhat vague statements, like the one he said on the radio today, is that it's more about like generating more money, potentially from boosters, potentially from getting Michael Crow on board for some more investment in other areas of the staff and all this type of thing. So I kind of like that Dillingham is playing the game. And while it's also out there that, hey, like, he's not leaving, or if he does leave, I'll say this, like, if he does leave and it's true from multiple sources, like, it's 100%, I've 100% believe that it's true. Chris Cartman's report. If you have it out there in social media, like in all this coaching stuff, if you have it out there that you midway through the season went into multiple position rooms and said, I'm going to be at this place, and then you dip a month later, that's going to be held against you on the recruiting trail. That's going to be held against you just in the general perception, not just from ASU fans, but in general. To go into multiple position rooms and make it clear to guys, hey, I'm not going anywhere. Like, that's kind of all I need to hear. I think that there's reason to be concerned, especially previously before that came out. But like, that's as much as like validation as I kind of need. Like, I find it really hard to believe that. Again, he said this before the Iowa State game, right? He didn't say it after. He said it before, when some of these rumors were really starting to pick up. That's pretty like concrete of like, man, I just don't think he's going to leave now. I really don't. I didn't think he was going to leave before, but I really don't think he's going to leave now. Now, maybe in a few years, and I don't know, there's not enough investment and the fan support dwindles a little bit, and maybe there's a few rough seasons and people are on his ass or whatever. Like, maybe he's more inclined to leave in 2030 or something than he is now. But like, who cares? Who cares? Like, if he's here now, especially if he's going to be here for the next year, there's not going to be all these crazy jobs open next year, I don't think. Like, Oklahoma could come open, potentially USC, but USC could come open this year. Those are two, maybe Texas, like sure, like other jobs could come open, but like, he's already rejecting Auburn and Florida and LSU and Penn State, like, those are some pretty big, like, if he was really looking to leave, he could have just taken the Florida job. But I do think, I think that some of these coaches have seen, not all, some of them want these big jobs. But if you're already at a Power 4 school, you've seen the short leash that Auburn coaches get. He was there for that. And he saw Gus Malzahn have to fight for his job security every single loss. And so does Dillingham really want to deal with that? He wouldn't have to deal with that here. And if he did, it would be down the road after a few rough seasons. So not all and we saw this from Brent Key at Georgia Tech. He didn't say I'm 100% going to be back, but he said you cut me open and see what colors I bleed. Like he's a Georgia Tech guy. When Dillingham's saying like, oh, like everyone in my family lives right here, and his entire time he's been here, he's been like, yeah, like I want to be here for decades. It's all of this stuff is adding up, and then when you have the cherry on top of him going to, again, multiple position meetings last week to tell players I'm going to be here, to just nip it in the bud, like I think it's something that you can just not worry about as much anymore. So again, anything can happen, right? Like nothing should surprise anyone, but it seems very unlikely in light of this report from Chris Cartman. So, I think it's still something to keep an eye on, I guess. But like, that's like Cartman is pretty connected with Dillingham. It's not like these like Hode, Rubino, and Cartman, they don't have connections. Like, no, they're connected with Dillingham. I'm sure. I don't think they got this story from Dillingham, but like they've known him, and they've known him for years, right? I'm sure they went to him years ago in the beginning of the Graham era when Dillingham was here. So, I think that this report right here from Sun Devil Source really kind of puts water on some of the rumors out there. So, we'll see how that plays out. But I think for now, it's just something you don't really have to worry about. And look, like we're seeing ASU creep into some of these Final Four graphics. We're seeing ASU be in the mix for more and more big time talent, and I think some of that is, Dillingham telling them like, "Hey, I'm going to be here next year," and also the effects of the House settlement, kind of evening the playing field from a compensation standpoint. Now, of course, you still want to have the big time booster come in, and I saw Phil Mickelson of all people reply to the PHNX Sun Devil show, and like getting into bed with Phil Mickelson. I think they would have to have some parameters and some guidelines of like, hey, like we need to know this money is coming in. Just, the way Phil Mickelson kind of lives his life and some of the things he is involved in. I think he's someone you have to really have some conversations with before he gets really involved in the program. But like, maybe you get John Rahm. Maybe you get another rich ASU person that Phil Mickelson knows or something like that. Like, for him to be interested and to reply to a PHNX video, like that is a good sign. Even if it doesn't directly end up with money coming in from Phil Mickelson, like that's still a good sign in terms of like getting more money rolling in. And so I think you're starting to see that with some of the recruits that ASU is in the mix for. I don't apply this to this 6'7" New Zealander guy who's was at the Chargers training camp at one point. I hope ASU gets this tight end, Nathaniel Salmon, but actually don't apply it to him. I think it's more of a Juju Johnson, who ASU is in the top 5 for a top 5 corner, and the only other schools are bigger time schools. And so ASU's in the mix for other players as well of that caliber. And I think some of that is due to a different landscape in terms of money. So that's something to watch for. And I just think that an aspect of the recruiting thing is Dillingham's letting people know that like, hey, I'm staying here. So speaking of money, oh boy, I'm not going to spend too much time on this because ASU is not directly implicated in any of the gambling stuff stemming from BJ Freeman last year, one of our favorite Sun Devil basketball players. This is the report from David Purdom. 6 former men's college basketball players at 3 schools, New Orleans, Mississippi Valley State, and ASU, participated in gambling schemes that included game manipulation or sharing information with known bettors, the NCAA announced. Three guys for New Orleans, two guys at Mississippi Valley State, and then Arizona State forward BJ Freeman was found to have shared information with a former teammate who was betting on Freeman's performance at a daily fantasy site. It wasn't really huge stuff, but it is definitely something to keep an eye on. So here's what David Perdum writes. The NCAA found that former ASU guard Freeman gave former Fresno State player Mikkel Robinson information before at least 4 games so that Robinson can bet on his stats, according to the report. Freeman also gave information to his then girlfriend before 2 games so she could wager on his stats. The two were teammates at Dodge City Community College at 2021-22. Robinson was one of 3 athletes the NCAA banned at Fresno State and San Jose State, and then other. So, like, basically, this was all done by Freeman. It was multiple prop bets before, kind of in, I think it was the BYU game was one, and then a few games in last November. Freeman has since lost his NCAA eligibility. So I hope he has a fruitful career in overseas playing basketball. Yeah, see ya. And I think, but really the most important thing here is that it was deemed that the ASU itself had literally no idea. And I think it's also good that it was just him, and he is someone who had transferred in. Like, he was kind of an unknown entering your program last year, and he was betting on, he was sending another player information for prop bets. So not great. Other ASU players on the team and any team, please don't be doing this. It's not good. And yeah, it's annoying that this is kind of something that coaches have to watch out for, but it's always been this way to an extent. But it's definitely easier now, and you can have some players with some poor judgment that decide to try to game the system. But I think with these stuff coming out, I think there will be more fear of players trying to do this stuff, because then they'll lose their eligibility, and that's probably not worth it. So wanted to touch on that. Before I touch on the other ASU men's basketball game, I have to shout out ASU women's volleyball. They're up to 19-3. They lost a game at Iowa State, their 3rd loss of the year, other than Texas and Pitt, which are 2 top 10 ranked teams. ASU, I believe, is up to number 6 in the country now. 10-0 at home. It doesn't say exactly how high they are in the rankings, but they're doing a good job. Only one Big 12 loss. They've taken care of like all the other ranked teams they faced. Just beat number 13 TCU, number 420 Colorado, 16 Baylor, 19 BYU. So they're just winning games. They're just mowing. 91 winning percentage. And, JJ Van Dale, he's done a great job, and they have a chance to win the Big 12 for the 2nd year in a row. So wanted to shout out ASU women's volleyball. Also have to give a shout out to ASU women's basketball. The Molly Miller era begins with a win. They beat Coppin State fairly handily. And then the Bobby Hurley, I don't want to say revenge tour, the Bobby Hurley last stand, gets off to a great start. 81-64 win over Southern Utah, a game that was pretty comfortable the entire time. And you have 4 guys finishing double digits, and then another guy with 9 points, another guy with 8 points. So the ball is really spread out. Anthony Pig Johnson, already a contender for my favorite player on this team. He was an NAIA player, comes to ASU, drops 17 points right away, 6 of 9 from the field, 2 of 3 from three-pointer, and just kind of a spark plug off the bench. Alan Mukeba gives you 11 points off the bench. Bryce Ford shows up with 11 points. And then more Masamba Diop. This guy, this guy could be a lottery pick. I am not making exaggerations. This is a highlight video from Armon Jovic, which is at PDT Scouting on Twitter. This is what he writes. Arizona State's 7'1" freshman Mor Basamba Diop had a very impressive debut versus Southern Utah. Diop recorded 14 points, 5 rebounds, 3 blocks, 2 assists, 6 of 8 field goal. Prior to coming to the States, he was developing very well in Spain for 2 of the most illustrious clubs there, Real Madrid and Gran Canaria. At 7'1", he moves very well. He has the ability to handle the ball in transition, doesn't look awkward with any movements, very athletic, the full package for an upside big. Made some of those good reads as a distributor. Last word, talented. 730K views. If you look at some of the quote tweets, it's a lot of neutral, just basketball fans, NBA fans. Hold on. JT, Future of Hoops. This is someone with, just kind of a regular guy. But a lot of just kind of like Wizards, go get him. NBA is going to be good. Like this is the Colin Cowherd, Ben Simmons is here. And there's a few others, but it's a lot of fans who are like, whoa, like this guy looks really good. And if you haven't seen his highlights from the Southern Utah game, I'm aware that it's Southern Utah, but he looks very smooth as you can see him there. Great ball handling ability, great feet, and he already has the requisite size to get highly prioritized on NBA draft boards. So I have been a huge doomer about this ASU basketball team. Like I didn't do any sort of preview on this show. I had opportunity to get season tickets and I was like, no, there's no chance. I am way, 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 way more interested in this team with this guy, along with some of the other complementary pieces they got. Mo Odom's a really high-level guard. You could see the passing skills already. Obviously, Pig Johnson can score. Mukeba's a physical force down low. And it looks like a team that just kind of clicks a bit more than some of these other teams. So when you have this guy, like, he's going to get you some really easy buckets over the course of games. And it'll be really interesting to see how his draft stock develops, because for him to generate that much attention right away, like there's definitely scouts. Like if just these like random Twitter basketball fans can see this guy's talent, then a lot of scouts will be able to as well. So really impressed with what I saw from Diop just in highlights, and I can't wait to go see him in person at some point soon. All right. Okay, stop sharing. Okay. That wraps things up for this show. Lots to talk about. It's been a good week for ASU football. We've had some ups and downs, but you get a road win with your backup quarterback. Your coach, is pretty much locked in. I don't want to say locked in, but like is almost certainly going to stay at the school for at least one more year and more, most certainly. It's just a good spot. You're recruiting well. Levitt's injury seems to be, progressing at a normal rate, I guess. That's not great with him being out, but Jordan Tyson will return. And so, everything is on the table for ASU football the rest of the year. Will they accomplish everything? Who knows? Probably not. There'll probably be one more kind of negative outcome as this year goes along. We'll see. But again, things are on the table and they've put themselves in a decent position. And so now we can just kick back and watch the games this week and get ready for West Virginia at 11 a.m. on next Saturday on the 15th. So that'll be fun. Get some early tailgating going there and be able to have a day after that too. So interesting game time with that. All right. Please like and subscribe. Please rate and review. Thank you for watching and listening. And as always, go Sun Devils.